Well, hello there, you little vixens. This is April Roberts. Welcome back to another episode of the Vixen Voice. You can see this big smile on my face because my guests today, Shelle and Sara, I will introduce them in a second. We were just joking around. So they are two of my closest friends in the world. So today is going to be really special. It is, as you heard last week, our panel discussion about one of the key proponents that we talk about in the Vixen Gathering. So today we are going to talk about how defining and owning your core values can help you in life. And what I love to say is, we all have so many decisions to make in a day, and we don't even understand how social media compounds that. Because every time you decide to like something, swipe, view something, you're making a mini decision. And then we all wonder why we're burned out at the end of the day, right? So if you've ever come home and your husband asked you what was for dinner and you just lost your shit, excuse my language, you are probably experiencing decision fatigue. I hear this all the time, right? And if you're listening and you own a business, you have a family, just like most of us, you have 10,000 things going on, decision fatigue is real. So defining and owning your core values can really help you make better aligned decisions, make them faster. I feel it also enhances your self-love because it reminds you what's important to you. And it's also a great way to set stronger boundaries. And I don't know about you, but I think all of us need work on setting stronger boundaries, right? So today, my two guests have defined and owned their core values, and we're going to be sharing our life stories of how we utilize them in our lives. So again, Shelle Vernon is my co-facilitator of the Vixen Gathering Mastermind, and she is also the founder of Milestone Development and Management. I'll let her tell you a little bit more about that when we join. And Sara Heald is the founder of Sara in the City, a fantastic event planning company in Houston, Texas, but she actually does events around the country and even internationally. So Sara will share a little bit more about that. So Shelle and Sara, welcome.
Thanks.
Hi, thanks.
How are you? So, I love saying why I have my guests, but obviously these are two of my best friends. So, these are women I love and admire. And I love that they have a good life, they're successful, and they're constantly trying to get better. And by constantly trying to get better, I mean living a more fulfilled, deeper life for themselves and their families. So I think this is going to be an amazing conversation today. I hope that all of you get fun notes. If you hear anything you'd love to share with us, your story, please do. Who knows? You might be my next guest. And let us know below. If you love this episode, please share the love. Awesome. So, Shelle, if it's okay, I'm going to start with you. So, tell us a
Yes,
little bit, if you would, paint the picture for us of kind of what your life looks like, right? Not a hard task in 2 minutes. And then we're going to get into core values.
sure. So I am the mom of five, and I'm the grandmother of, as of yesterday, I have a third grandbaby on the way, and I'm super
Ooh.
excited about that. Um, and let's see, three of the five are at home now, three are in college, one getting ready to go off to an internship, one in high school. So really, I'm only responsible for that one. Um, and I run Milestone Development Management, which is a leadership and development design firm, and we also do retained search. So I'm quite busy.
I love it. And you're on a couple of boards and you do
Yes,
nonprofits and all kinds of
yes,
stuff, right?
yes, yes.
Awesome. Well, Sara, share with us, by the way, super cute kitchen behind you.
Thank you.
So share with us a little bit of snapshot of your life. And by the way, you just went through a house renovation, right? So we might talk
Yes.
about that today as well.
Okay. I'm a busy mom of two kids under 5, although one is about to turn 6. I own my own business, which is an event and meeting management firm located in Houston, but I do travel with clients. And I also recently added PTO committee member to my resume.
Wow, that's going to be interesting. Love it. And Shelle and Sara are both coming to us from Houston, Texas. I am home in Nashville, Tennessee today. So always like to share that. Again, we'd love to hear from you. Where are you listening in from? We'd love to hear from you. Awesome. Well, ladies, I want to dive in because you know me well, and you know that core values are so important to me, and I love talking about this. I personally defined my core values in 2020, which was a great time to define them. I went through this exercise as part of a marketing plan development, actually for the Vixen gathering. And I just thought it was so powerful that I was like, I want to do my personal core values. And then I started utilizing them. And I saw the power of how I could make better decisions, both for my business and my life, by being true to my core values. So, my personal core values are alignment, meaning I like to be on purpose, affection, I love to get and receive affection, and finally, adventure. And in fact, I was reflecting this morning. I know I really monitor if I'm going into burnout or if I need some recoup, and I haven't had a ton of adventure lately. So, this weekend, I'm going to find some adventure to get back to so that I can fill my cup. So, as I talked about in the beginning, core values can be a great way to enhance your self love and self care because if you understand what's important to you and what you need, then you can put it in your life, right? So, I'd love to hear from y'all. Sara, we'll start with you. First of all, I know you did this exercise in our Vixen mastermind, right? So,
Hmm.
let's just start with what are your three core values?
I have them nearby, and they are achievement, community, and balance.
I love it. And to be clear, this is your personal core values, not the values of Sara in the city, correct? And so we
That's
did
right.
another exercise for values for that. And I just wanted to find that because a lot of us are used to having core values for our companies or at work, but these are your personal core values, what makes you tick and what's important to you. So I love it. So, Sara, can you repeat for us your three core values and kind of let us know what each of the words mean to you?
So achievement was my one of the core values. They aren't in any order, but achievement is one of my core values. And to me, that means
Mm-hmm.
that I am a person that reaches for the stars. I like to have goals defined and I like to chase those
Mm.
goals. Achievement can be defined in many different ways, whether it's an award, a verbal achievement, money. Some people see money as an achievement. My next one is community. And to me, that means having a sense of place culturally with like-minded individuals. So that's important for me to feel that I'm a part of something bigger as I go about my day-to-day life. And the third thing is balance because I'm a mom, a wife, a business owner, a volunteer, a dog owner, a homeowner, all kinds of things. And I needed to find, I would like to find a way to be happy in all those realms.
Oh, I love it. I love that you added a way to be happy in all those realms. Not survive, but thrive, right? To be happy in all realms. So I love that. Thank you. Shelley, would you mind sharing with us your three core values?
So my three are love, intention, and wellness.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And would you like to define them for us? And by the way,
Sure.
why I ask people to define is the word can mean something different for everyone, right? Like I did kind of a mini paragraph or like, word dump of how I defined each of these three words when I did it. So, Shelley, share with us what your words mean to you.
So, love for me is kindness, compassion, gratitude, and really acknowledging the light that each one of us carries within us and that we share within the world, where however we tend to present ourselves or operate. But I've actually just added joy to the definition of love because that's what was missing. And we went through our last mastermind retreat, and that was kind of like an aha moment for me was that I was missing joy in love.
Mm-hmm.
Intention is goals, purpose, and objective. And then wellness for me is how I am feeling within myself mentally, spiritually,
Mm-hmm.
emotionally, relationally, financially, and really understanding that it takes all of those things for me to be well within myself, within my body, my mind, my spirit.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Thank you. And if you're listening out there, in our show notes, we actually have where you can click and download our core values worksheet. So it's at least a way you can read the blog, my story of how I defined mine, and then think about your own and starting to define them. And the reason I always recommend three is, we could all laugh about it. We have someone in our mastermind who started with 10. And I said, really, are you going to carry this list of 10 around? And every time you make a decision, we're going to checklist down them. I mean, I want this to be a life hack for you, right? So that's how I coach it at least. I mean, I think in business, 3 to 5 is good because you're setting the values for an entire team, right? So you want to encapsulate a lot of different aspects. When you're talking about yourself personally, a lot of times we can combine the words and get down to three, right? So it's really quick for me to check my 3 words when I'm making a big decision or if I want to check in on myself or do something different. So, I joke about the 10 words because it's not easy to begin with. Would you all agree with that? Like if you think back to when you first did this exercise, and I think actually both of you did a 3-day challenge with me where we first talked about it and then we did it in the mastermind. So it probably wasn't until the second time around that you actually defined your words. Is that fair to say?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And if you can kind of just think back to when you were going through this exercise, what were the challenges and how did you get through? How did you get to your words? And maybe like how long did it take, right? Because I don't want everyone to listen and say, oh, tomorrow I'm going to have my core values and define and own them. I mean, this is really a process, but I think it's worth it to go through.
For me, I think it's ever evolving. The
Mm-hmm.
what the 3 words mean to me, as you just heard, I added joy, and that was understanding that, having that breakthrough in the mastermind of, yes, I love, and I love hard, and I'm kind, and I'm compassionate, and I'm, full of gratitude, and I see the light in myself, but also in others. But there was that joy component was missing, and
Mm-hmm.
understanding that I had, even as a mom and as being a wife or someone in a relationship, I had lost that joy, and understanding what brought me joy, and
Mm-hmm.
understanding that if I don't have that component in love, it's sometimes hard for me to be kind or compassionate. If I don't have that joy within myself, I cannot even exude that outside of myself. And
Mm-hmm.
understanding with intention for me, understanding what the goals are, what my purpose is, what my objective is when I'm doing something, and keeping that in the back of my mind, because we like to throw around words and we've
Mm-hmm.
never really defined it. And that's really a hard activity because, yeah, we have, Merriam-Webster's dictionary definition of
Yeah.
whatever said word is, but how does that really impact you? How do you internalize that? And I think that's the part that takes a while to really internalize and have that ingrained in you, what these words mean to you.
Yeah, I agree. So when I was first coming up with this exercise and mode of coaching, I had a consultant at the time. She said, "Oh, I have a client who has a core values assessment. Why don't you joint venture with him?" And I took it, and it was like very mental, spit out these words, and I was like, I don't feel these, right? So the whole point of the core values exercise is a discovery of self, which is more important than the 3 words you come out with. I just think the better we know ourselves, the better we can show up in life, the more we enjoy life, and the more we can love others. Like, I think what you
Yeah.
touched on, I mean, my grandmother always said, if you don't love yourself, you can't love anyone else. And you're always like, yeah, yeah, whatever. And then I feel the older we get, the more we realize how true that is. And
Yes.
I also think when we're younger, it's easy to love ourselves. I mean, I see Sarah's kids, and, they're full of love and joy running around, just like my niece and nephews. And then I think as we get older, that self love gets dirty, right? So we have to like shine it up and shine our light again. And so that's why these exercises are so important. And that's why I love being around kids kids, I can be a little kid with them because it reminds us of like the beauty of that self love and just like showing up in the world as you are. So it aggravates my sister because I won't like, I kind of won't keep her kids in line very much. Like they're very wild when Aunt April's around, but like I love it because I'm like, okay, I'm taking care of them. I don't care. Like I love to see that. Now, I'm not doing it 24/7, so I'm not judging anyone who disciplines their kids. But for me, it's a spiritual exercise, even like just being with them, but then seeing that joy and beauty. So I love that you brought up like that self love and joy and returning to yourself because it's really for me the purpose of an exercise like this. So, Sarah, how about you? How was it when you were defining? And I know you took this exercise really seriously, but I mean, you do take things seriously. I just like to joke when before Sarah met Chris, her husband, I still remember after your first date. I mean, Sarah was dating like it was her second job. Like she was ready to get married, like she was organized, she was doing this, like it was like, okay, done that process. So like, Sarah kind of dives in, she's analytical, she gets it done. And I mean, you have a very fulfilled, marriage because you were true to yourself in that journey to find him. So I was laughing because I saw the same thing with your core values because Sarah kept texting me and she is my best friend. I'd be like, hey, I'm not coaching right now. I'm switched off. Can you ask me this during our next meeting? Because, you do burn out if you don't switch off. So, Sarah, I'd love to hear from you how the experience was and, how long it took you and what it meant to you.
Yeah. I guess everybody is different. It's hard for me to remember that not everybody like dives head first into each task and is like with a death grip and is trying to like make sure that everything is done with 100% accuracy. But I really, when I was practicing my core values, it was something I had to revisit a few times over a week. I had to pick it up and put it back down and pick it up and put it back down because when I was reflecting and reviewing the options and the prompts, which are given to help you identify what your core values are, I found it somewhat difficult to come to what I thought was going to be like an obvious answer. So I had to let things settle with me and revisit it to kind
Mm-hmm.
of find what the three words were that were the most likely to be my core values that I actually felt. Another thing that I felt was really challenging is I wanted the exercise that you offer, you're not necessarily given a list of choices. So you're not given a list of 17
Mm-hmm.
words, pick the three that most represent you. And we're very used to, quizzes in 17 magazine back in the day where you're given all the choices and then you whittle them down. And this was very difficult because basically your core values could be any three words. They don't even have to be on the list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I agree. And, I purposely, before people have asked for that, and when I first did a core values assessment, it was, way back when, and they did give us like a very long list. So I actually did this a long time ago and revisited it. Um, but I think it's a creative endeavor. And I think when you start with a closed, set, then you're not expanding beyond that. And so it's really like spending time with yourself, digging in. And, for me, when I did this, I did words and then I'd pull up the synonyms and the antonyms. And like you said, we all operate differently, right? But I'm a little obsessive about words. I love words and I think words have power. So I wanted to get the right words, right? So it was kind of like I knew generally what it was. And then I was like, okay, what's the synonym for this? What's this? Oh, that one feels better. And so it was getting to where you felt good about them and then, what they meant to you. And what was funny for me is I posted them on LinkedIn sometime in the last year, right? And this woman I knew in college, she was a sorority sister of mine, but like we weren't the best of friends. We kind of butted heads sometimes. Like we were in New York studying together at some point. I mean, I respected her, but we were just very different people. And she posted, "Oh my gosh, this is exactly who you were in college." So like I mean, coming from someone who's like being objective about it, it was so funny to hear that. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like 20 something years later, oh gosh, 25. I think my 25-year reunion is this year. Like 25 years later, I am the same person. And so I agree, Shelley. I think it evolves over time, maybe how you define them and what they mean to you in your life at that point. But I don't know that we change that much as people, our core selves, if we know who we are. Because, again, everybody has different belief systems, but I believe we're a soul that came onto earth for a purpose. And so we had certain things set into our personality for that journey. And that's why, for me, it's so important to explore who I really am and what I really want, because I think that's keys to my journey and my purpose and what I'm supposed to be doing. Right. So yeah, I told you I can talk about this topic all day long. It's like very important to me. What I would love to hear from both of you is, once you find your core values, and let's be clear, this just happened like March or April of this year, right? It was at our March session. So depending on how long it took, and here we are in the fall, so really half a year later. And so what experiences have you had where you've utilized your core values? I say, and I'd love to hear other things they've helped with, but I really think they help you make better decisions and eliminate the guilt afterwards. A lot of times we second guess ourselves, especially as women, because we have so many responsibilities and we want to have the perfect solution, right? And so we'll make a decision and then we revisit. So I find when I make my decisions based on my core values, sometimes I have to experience the consequence of my decision, but I never second guess it. Does that make sense? So that's one thing I've personally noticed. And like I said, I think it helps you enhance your self love and self care. And it helps you set boundaries, because if somebody's violating a core value, it's going to trigger you. And when you get triggered, you should pay attention and say, hey, what line has this person crossed, so that I can lovingly articulate that and set this boundary, right? So have you all found that it's helped you make decisions, love yourself more, set boundaries, or has it helped you in some other way?
It's definitely helped me make decisions and avoid guilt. Here's kind of a really easy,
Oh, I
practical
love that.
application. At the kids' school, we're all encouraged to volunteer in some capacity, and they have a list of roles that you can choose from. And I used my core values to kind of determine which role would be the best fit for me. And within that
Mm.
role, I've noticed, just as an observation, I've noticed that I tend to do things that remind me of my core values, especially community. So my motivations for action are often in line with my core values.
I love it. And then I would imagine then you're more motivated to follow through on those commitments you've made, right?
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Awesome. And Shelley, how about you?
Actually, I have a recent example. Excuse me. I was working on a very large project here in Houston, and I just there was something that triggered me. Actually, in April, you and I spoke about this, and it was like a non-payment of several invoices, and I made a decision that. So I should add that also in love comes dignity, and that's something that April pointed out to me, and I realized that this didn't feel good to me because I wasn't operating with dignity and love, and so I made a decision. I received an email, oh, we're going to do XYZ now. And my response was, hey, great. I'm so happy for you. Like, it was intentional with my response. I wanted wellness within myself, but wellness for the other party. And, you know, in love and in gratitude, I said, like, hey, we are happy to help and jump back in when these things are met, right? And I don't
Mm-hmm.
feel guilty about that. It was actually very freeing because I felt like I wasn't shrinking, right? And I was operating in divine love, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
when I say love, I really mean divine love, right? And we have this, or I had this for a very long time, this perception that love or divine love was this meek, mild, force. And really, it's not. It can be that, but it can also be bold and courageous and operating within that boundary and within that core value it freed me, and it freed up time, it freed up space to
Mm-hmm.
welcome in someone or another business partner that I
Mm-hmm.
could operate in love and intention and wellness with. And so I've just been like, it was like I shedded a layer of, wow.
I love it. Yeah, because what it did was it moved you from a project that was not aligned with your purpose, probably to a project more aligned. Now, we don't often know that till later, right? When you look back,
Yes.
but like I can almost see that that's what's happening for you. And that's why alignment's like my number one core value, because I feel like I have a strong life purpose and I'm here to do something and I want to be on purpose. Now, that doesn't mean 24/7 I need to be on purpose. I need to take time and enjoy life as well, but I want to make decisions that support my purpose. And some days you can have a free day and be like, I don't care about my purpose. I'm going to have fun, right? Like we're human beings. Um, so, one thing, as you'll know, I practice spiritual healing and I go to classes and training. I have a mentor, and our mentor's like, God doesn't want you to be fanatical, right? Like, we don't need to be like, oh, I have to be like this all the time. And that's a really important lesson, too, because I do think as we learn new things, the pendulum swings to extremity, right? And then, like, Sarah, one of your core values is balance. So, like, a lot of times we swing here when something's new and we have to learn how to bring it back because we're learning how to integrate this new thing into our life. So I love that. And speaking of dignity, I mean, as you know, this is one of my big things I talk about because, again, it came to me spiritually. Like, one of my mentors pointed out that men need respect to operate like spiritually strongly, and we women need dignity. And so I think I'm going to add that to my list of things that core values brings you, because when you're operating in your core values, you're operating in your dignity. And, Shelley, as you've shared with me, like every time you're asserting your dignity, it's shocking how people react. I mean, I had a situation, my apartment complex, I pay way too much in rent. I was moving to a bigger apartment. So they're getting more money from me. I'm very busy. They're making it very difficult and sending things to me piecemeal, right? So like I just sent an email like, "Hey, they basically were like, we're not going to give you the keys and you can't move tomorrow," because they had failed to tell me everything I needed to do, right? And as you guys know, my life is very organized and like I need to move the day I plan to move. So I just read an email like, okay, I'm going to jump through these hoops and do these. But, I have to say that I am shocked and surprised that for the amount of rent we pay, this is your client service, right? Or customer service. Like I just said that in the email. And the next day, like they're so nice. They can't do enough for me. Like I didn't officially complain. I didn't say I wanted anything. I just pointed out the obvious. And, there was a couple of other opportunities where, as you know, I travel a lot and sometimes people forget their manners in the public, let's just say, right? And so, where I very gracefully asserted my dignity, and then people are like, oh, wow, instead of thinking you're rude, like they respond positively to you. And I think it's because as human beings, we all want to operate that way. So a lot of times it's scary, just like asserting boundaries are scary, but it's really funny, if you come from a place of love, like you're talking about, and you're not being nasty. Again, we're in our dignity. You can be strong and people actually react in a positive manner to that. Like they appreciate it. So I love that. So I think that's what core values do. So Sarah, how about you? I know that we kind of touched on your home renovation, which I was so glad when I was in Houston last time I was able to come enjoy it in person. But for a couple of years, you're kind of, you can share your story, but basically you're in your starter home, you have two small kids, pandemic hit, you're now working from home, and so sometimes you're kind of going out of your mind wanting more space, right? And so but the housing market isn't ideal now. Interest rates aren't ideal. You guys want to be smart and having a hard time in the crazy market finding a house you like. So,
Yeah.
can you shared with me once you defined your core values, it gave you peace in this process and took some stress away. So, can you kind of share with us how that happened and maybe what decisions it led you to?
Sure. So all the things April said Plus, the part that wasn't really mentioned is that as an event planner, I create beautiful
Mm,
spaces for others. And one of the things that was very much plaguing me is that I didn't feel at peace in my own space because I didn't
mhm.
feel it was set up to support what my daily needs were. And my daily needs are being a mom, being a wife, and running a business. And so when I was looking at the options for what we could do using the existing structure of our great house, sort of relied on my core values to kind of direct me to make choices that might be the most compelling and the most important because we couldn't afford to do everything we wanted. And it's not necessarily even the best choice to do everything at once, but I leaned into my core values and I prioritized what I thought I might like to have done. And once I was able to do that, we renovated the utility room. It's very beautiful. So now I have a functional space where I can do laundry. I have lots of extra storage. We renovated the kitchen breakfast nook area by putting in a banquette and putting in soft seating for more people so I can be more of a hostess. We added more storage to the kitchen. We changed out some shelving. We painted. We did some nice things that make the house feel more like a home and help me to achieve balance. It helps me to achieve a sense of community because this very week I hosted a PTO meeting at my house and I
Love
was
it.
able to sit, let's see, I think I had 10 people in the kitchen, which was really
Wow.
great. And they all looked very comfortable. So it was okay. And achievement because it helps to support me in running my business, which is a big deal for me.
I love it. Thank you. And Sarah, it's interesting because when I had you for your solo interview a couple of weeks ago, you're kind of sharing how things you've learned in the Vixen Mastermind have helped you run your household better, not just your business. So I mean, this seems like in line with that. Is that fair to say?
Mhm. Yeah, and it brings to light, working on yourself, and the Vixen
Hmm.
Mastermind in particular brings to light all kinds of nuances about your whole self. So, all kinds of things.
Yeah, so you can show up better, right? And love yourself. Very important. So, Shelley, you shared with me, and I like this story because as female business owners and a lot of pretty much most everyone in our mastermind is a solopreneur, meaning maybe they have part-time team, etc., but like it's them, right? So your business kind of is your life. So a lot of times our personal core values are kind of blending over into our business life, right? And I suggested having personal and business, but that's only because as you build a team, you want to create a culture that's right for your team, right? But at the beginning, at Vixen Gathering, my three core values were the core values of Vixen Gathering. And now that we have a team, I challenge my team for us to go through this exercise together. And now we have four core values that are unique to our team at Vixen. Um, but and for me personally, I know that helped me. I had a friend who wanted to join me in Vixen, and she's an amazing individual, like total badass. And as I talked to her, I realized she wasn't aligned with the core values, right? And so I hated to tell my friend, hey, it's not a fit, but I clearly saw it was not a fit, and it was an easy decision to make, right? Then I have to go to a different skill set to figure out how to gracefully tell someone that. But at least the decision making part, it just shocked me how clear it was that it wasn't a fit based on core values, right? And you had a similar situation recently at work. So do you want to share that with your company with Milestone?
Sure. So, Milestone has strategic partners that I partner with on, larger projects. And someone that I really, really admire and is mentoring me in the space for retained search. Um, One of Milestone's core values of the five was love. And I
Mm,
said was, and I'll go into that. And there was a lot of conversation about the word love, and his response was, well, what about respect? I don't know that love really will resonate in the marketplace. And so I kind of sat with that for a while, and then I spoke to April about it. And I was like, but that's really who I am. It is a part of me. As I said earlier, I feel like I'm divine love, right? And so the decision that I came to was, and you'll see it on the website, it does say respect with the same definition of love. Now, Milestone is a subsidiary. I do have a parent company that governs Milestone. And I had not defined, it's Vernon Innovations, and I had not defined the core values for Vernon Innovations. And so I thought, you know what? I will just elevate love to the governing body, and everything beneath that divine love flows from. And
Mm.
so, yeah, that's kind of my way of saying, okay, I can see your point, and I acknowledge that, right? Love and respect, in my mind, are different things. The
Hmm.
definition we kept at the definition of love that I read to you: kindness, compassion, gratitude. That is still what you will see on the word on the website. You'll see the word respect for in reference to love, and then the overarching body. Vernon Innovation is my parent company. That is the core value. It is love, because I think that, not I think, I know that everything that I do, I really think, okay, is this, are you operating in love? And with the understanding of, sometimes love
Hmm.
has to be that hard thing. It's that difficult, complicated conversation, but you have it with love in your heart, right?
Hmm.
And so I decided to make that the overarching value of anything that I want to be associated with.
Yeah, I love that. So you found an answer you're comfortable with. And why I love this story is we just chatted about this last time we were together as a group. I feel like everyone's always like in marketing, like meet your client where they're at or meet your customer where they're at, which I totally agree with. Like if you're not serving a customer or client, you don't have a business, right? So you should be there serving your customer and client. But I also think a part of marketing and businesses is being authentic to who you are. Like people want to know who you are and who they're doing business with. And so this was an interesting conversation because your partner thought respect would play better to your clients, right? But love was true to you. And I think, part of it is going through this exercise of, okay, what's the balance between the two? Because I think the more authentic we can show up, then the people who are aligned with us want to work with us and do business with us. And that's who we want to serve as well, right? So I just like, if you're listening, if you own a business, if you work for a business, like just, there are two parts. What is the business and what are you? And like, how do both show up? And, that's why I love when I interviewed Angela Foster and she talked about branding yourself, branding yourself as a business owner. But if you're in corporate America, you can brand yourself too. You can have a separate brand through your dress where then you're establishing that people know you, because you never know when you get another opportunity or you need to look for another job, etc. And so I think the same thing with your personal core values. You can have the core values of your company, but you can show up with your personal core values and how you show up and interact with people and serve people, right? So I don't know. I find it's an interesting dialogue, and I also find that so many people want to go the safe route, not to insult anyone. And sometimes by going the safe route, you serve no one because you're not speaking the truth of what you're really about. And I know, Sarah, you've discovered this because you really worked hard to define who your client was, right? In business, like who you best serve and who you don't serve. And sometimes you take clients you just like outside of that. But I mean, do you think that your personal core values play into who you choose to work with, or your target client in business?
I think so. And it's always a work in progress just because I've defined my ideal client and I still there are still missteps, there are still opportunities where
Mm-hmm.
maybe I choose business that doesn't 100% align the best. Um or sometimes an ideal client might the ideal client might go to another place, and that particular individual is still an ideal client, but maybe the circumstances have changed. Um, and I think that, just in real time, like reflecting on my core values and some of the situations I've been in recently, they have been beneficial. Um, I definitely think that's true. Uh, it's when people are asking you to do tasks or giving you assignments, the manner in which they do it, the process for the assignments, the follow through, all of that is sort of soft skills, all kind of come into play, and you can find answers in your core values.
I like it. I like it. And one thing we talked about when I interviewed you one on one, I loved because I had never made this connection, but it's so true for you, is that, community is one of your core values. And you talked about how, becoming a business owner in event planning versus when you were an employee or a consultant, et cetera, allowed you to deepen the relationships with your clients, because always, when you're working for someone, there's a fine line of kind of how close you can become to the client. And I just thought that was really interesting when you shared that, because that's so true for you, because you're such a great relationship person and you stay friends with people, like even crazy people like me, forever, right? And I think it's because you do deepen those relationships. And so I don't know, it kind of filled my heart for you that you were able to find that fulfillment by starting your own business with like all the stress and insanity that comes with it. You were able to like define how you wanted to interact with people. So I
Hmm.
really love that.
Yes, and it, sometimes whether or not a person is an ideal client on paper may not be true, but maybe they align very well with your core values, and so it's a good fit anyway. And so I've had that happen. And
Yeah.
I also think that viewing my business as a place to create community is beneficial. So sometimes I create opportunities for other people
Hmm.
to be a part of the Sarah in the City community, and they are grateful for
Yeah.
that. And then also, I particularly, one of the aspects of event planning I really like is creating a community for other guests. And so
Hmm.
I actually am pretty experiential for the way I attack an event or a meeting. So I like to create little moments and opportunities for the guests or attendees to interact with each other and build their own relationships.
Love it. That's beautiful. Which is why you plan our Fix and Mastermind retreats. Because we are very high touch. Awesome. So, ladies, I know we're wrapping up soon, but one question I'd love to ask you is, if you had a friend or someone you cared about that, was trying to define their core values and go through this process and make better decisions, live a more aligned life, um, more self love, boundaries, and their dignity, what advice would you give them?
I think for me, it would be don't rush it, and
Mm-hmm.
to give the process as long as it takes. And I think not I think I know that a lot of us have disconnected so much from self because there's things coming at us all the time, social media,
Mm-hmm.
television, radio, whatever, right? Just life, that we've become desensitized and disconnected from ourself and the universe, right? From God. And because of that, it's sometimes difficult to understand who we are and what we value. And sometimes it takes a while because of that disconnection to sit with self and understand, gosh, who am I? What do I love? What brings me joy? Right? And just my journey with that is, I would say, be patient and don't rush it. Don't We may not all be like Sarah and attack it head on and get it in a week, right? And Sarah, like, I applaud you for that. Like, I admire that. For some of us, it may be like me. Like, you might need to sit there with that for a week, for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, and really think, how does this feel when I say this word? How does this make me feel? Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say be patient and grab the dictionary.
Yeah. I love that. And if you do endeavor into this exercise, and again, there's a worksheet below to help you. If you're coming to us on one of the apps, you can always go to Vixen Gathering, our podcast page. Show notes have all the resources, or you could subscribe on that page and you automatically get the resources in your inbox each week. So that's pretty cool. So great thing to do. But if you find yourself struggling, look for an opportunity. My team posts every once in a while that I do complimentary sessions. I'm pretty good intuitively at kind of putting you into a meditation, different things, and some words are going to pop up at you, even in as soon as 30 minutes. So, don't hesitate, jump on that opportunity. I'd love to help you define your core values. Just reach out to the team and see if there's an opportunity, or check that out on our website. So, Sara, how about you? What advice would you give?
I would say that once you get a few words that you feel can define your core values, to play with them, maybe run them past some loved ones, just use them aloud a few times, kind of live with them,
Mm-hmm.
make them a part of your being for a couple days before you commit to them.
I love them. And Sara, do you have your plaque right there? You said they were close by. Can you show? Yeah, so all of our clients get this once they define them. So it stays in your desk on your face. If you don't have this beautiful plaque, make one for yourself. I have a client who actually made her own. Or here's a cool trick: grab your phone, set an alarm for 10 a.m. tomorrow, put your 3 words in, and do that a couple of days in a row where it pops up and reminds you, and see how they feel, right? So that's a great high performance trick. So that's an easy way to live with your words, or have them posted like Sara does, and just kind of see how they feel to you over time. So anyway, ladies, I've loved having you here. Of course, I love anytime I get to chat with you. If you guys like me want more of Shelle or Sara, their information's below. If you think that Sara could do a fantastic event for your organization, please check her out. Again, if you go to the Vixen Gathering / podcast, you will have all of their contact information, all of the resources we talk about. And same for Shelle. If you are looking to hire and expand your team, she is phenomenal at that. I know that management and development sounds like up there, but all of us need to hire. So you can always start there, check out her website, and see if you can work with her in some other way as well. And again, if you love this episode, we would love to hear from you. Please leave us a review, leave us a rating. You can do that on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or you could go see a short version of this on YouTube and leave your comments there. We love to hear interaction from you. We'd love to hear your story and what you'd like to hear from us. You never know. You might be our next guest. You might be on our next panel. We'd love to hear from you. I hope that everyone has a fantastic day. And I want to end, as y'all know, I always like to start and end with positivity. So Shelle, share with me what you're excited about for today.
Ooh, today I am headed to Dallas for, I sit on the board of my family's foundation, and we are having a golf tournament. So I am happy to go see family and share the news that I'm going to be a honey times 3.
I love it. New grandbaby. So beautiful. Sara, how about you?
I'm excited because my 3-year-old recently completed the potty training journey. That is something super exciting.
I bet he's proud of himself.
Yeah, it's great.
I love it. I love it. I'm actually excited because I have been on the road. I was in California, Houston. I had lots of delays. I got in the middle of last night. So I'm looking at the window at the beautiful green hills I get to overlook. So I'm very excited that I'm headed into the weekend, relaxing weekend, enjoy some greenery, get to do some hiking, and kind of get back to myself. So for all of you listening, I hope you have your core values. Please work on them, define them, reach out if you need help. That's what we're here for. Listen to this. And as always at the Vixen Gathering, we're all about empowering all of us beautiful women so that we can love and support each other. So if you heard something today that made a difference, share it with someone you care about. Let's continue the ripple effect. And remember to always show up and love and show up your best. We love you. Have a fantastic day, and we'll talk to you soon.